this evening for a few moments. We wanted to continue a discussion that we started January 29th at Mas Mariam, and which has generated considerable controversy. Since then, considerable dis-ease, considerable anger, in fact, regarding a particular claim that we have made, regarding a particular charge that we have put before the United States government. Not just that the United States government has been and currently is engaging in numerous covert psychochemical operations designed to secure the black male's perpetual place in this society as the epsilon male. That is to say, the subordinate, non-dominant, lowest male in the current dominance hierarchy of America. The alpha male, the top male, being the Caucasian white male. We have been documenting that this country is engaged in numerous psychochemical operations targeting black males, in particular, targeting black males with chemical manipulation, even producing feminization and homosexuality. We have stated that part of the psychochemical operation aimed at black males is the prevalent weed culture of black America. I made the point on January 29th that our enemies have used against us marijuana, weaponized marijuana. In fact, I said that marijuana has not only been weaponized against black men, but has been made an ethnic weapon against black men. The difference between a weapon and an ethnic weapon is that a weapon will cut anybody and everybody the same way. An ethnic weapon has specific effects on specific ethnic groups. I made the charge that marijuana, as part of the psychochemical operation against the black male, specifically our masculinity, marijuana has been weaponized and made an ethnic weapon. I said then that marijuana with alcohol, that good kush and alcohol, I said then that they are the two pillars of nigger culture. I said they are the 1-2 punch of the black male's masculinity. I said that weed, this weaponized weed, and alcohol mildly feminizes black men. This is what I said on January 29th. Now, many ran with my words. I said weed and alcohol mildly feminizes black men. If I were to restate it today, the only thing I would change is, rather than mildly, I would substitute the word subtly feminizes black men. There are those, the tabloids took my words and said that, quoted me as saying, weed makes black men gay. We did not say that. And the importance of that distinction is made clear and laid bare in the reactions to our statement. It's critical that we stop conflating homosexuality and feminization. Male homosexuality is indeed an act of male feminization. But it is not the only act of male feminization. And when we see no other or admit to no other manner of black male feminization than homosexualization, when we admit nothing other than that, then we give a pass to a whole host of other feminizations. And this is part of the hang-up, part of the difficulty with people understanding what we have said. And this is part of the critique that has been leveled against us. We never said that marijuana makes you gay, though we will say a little something on that today. We said that marijuana feminizes black men, and it does. And inshallah, we will show how. As a follow-up to our remarks on January 29th, we did a lecture February 11th entitled The Pot Plot and the Marijuana Controversy. That is currently on my Facebook page in the archive, the video archive. You can access it and avail yourself to what we have said then. We will do our best to, in this part 2, not repeat anything that we said then, but we want to clarify the issue. We want to make clear the basis of this charge that this weaponized marijuana is feminizing black men. We want to document that. We want to clarify that, and such that there will be no doubt, Allah willing, at the end of this broadcast. And so in that regard, family, I must warn us that our discussion tonight will probably not be pretty. We have a whole bunch of documents. Our discussion will be top heavy today. Top heavy with documents. I won't turn up today. This is not a lecture at the mosque. I could have prepared these remarks to be given from a rostrum, but I chose not to. I chose to make this case in this way to keep it top heavy. It's going to be real hitty tonight by design. And so we are going to engage numerous documents. We are going to present data. There will be no turn up tonight. We want to make it clear for doubters that what we are saying is absolutely the truth. And in that regard, and before we move to our first slide, I would like to thank my teacher, my life coach, the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan, for giving me the opportunity to pursue Satan down this rabbit hole. I would not be able to do what I'm doing if not for the beneficence the guidance of my teacher, the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan, not just the freedom that he gives me, not just the freedom that he gives me to pursue our research at the level that we are able to pursue it, but also the patience that he has with his student. I pray that as I walk this path to close the gap, my personal gap with him, that in the character gap between us and the apostle of God, I'm thankful to him that for his patience with me as I, like all of us, stumble on this road and inshallah grow. So we are talking about the pot plot part 2. How does weed feminize the black man? Just from the gate, I want to reiterate that the initial point that was made and that will be pursued tonight is not that smoking marijuana necessarily makes you gay. That was not our claim. Smoking this marijuana, the marijuana that's on the streets, not just in America, but on the streets in the UK. Smoking this marijuana feminizes men. I say feminize the black man because that's my concern. And the white man himself is naturally feminized. You are not, black man. The white man's masculinity inherently has a large dose of femininity in it. The white man's masculinity, in fact, and we have documented in our book, the white man's masculinity is built on the homosexual act. That is not the case with the black man in America or around the world. The black man has been and gave the world the definition of masculinity. Masculinity being divinity. True manhood is black godhood. So the standard of masculinity has been and will continue to be set by the black man. What we are experiencing by deliberate manipulation, chemical manipulation by the U.S. government, we are experiencing a deliberate feminizing of black men on multiple levels. One manifestation of that feminizing being homosexuality, among the most extreme, though the numbers are huge, but on the feminization scale, homosexuality certainly is on the extreme end of the feminization process. But this weed, and I'm going to clarify what we mean, this weed, even if it does not make men gay, make you gay, brother, the fact that you have a healthy or even a hyper libido, that's fine, great, good for you. But that does not speak to the issue we are putting before us of the feminizing of black men. You can have a very high libido and enjoy sex only with women and still be feminized. We will run after that today, tonight, inshallah. I keep saying this marijuana. So let me clarify. Some of the critique is that marijuana is a holy herb. Marijuana is a natural plant that God put on the planet. And that this natural, God-given plant has medicinal value. It can cure ailments. It's a good plant. And I don't deny any of that. All of that is true. As far as the ancient marijuana plant is concerned. How deluded each and every one of you are, dear family, if you believe that that joint you smoked was filled with that ancient plant, cannabis plant, that God put on the earth, which he put, incidentally, not in Africa. He put in Central Asia, in the cold steeps or steppes of Central Asia. That marijuana is very different from what you smoke. And if you were, a brother asked me, well, all right, granted the weed that's on the streets of America is weaponized and manipulated, is there anywhere where I might get a clean joint, some clean marijuana? What I said to the brother is, well, yeah. But if you went to Central Asia and found the purest, untouched cannabis plant, you would throw that thing in the garbage, cursing it. The reason you would throw it in the garbage, cursing it, and return your butt back to America mad, huffing and puffing, disappointed, is because that natural cannabis plant won't serve the purpose you went looking for it for, to get high. You who have been smoking marijuana, the post 1960s marijuana, you who have been smoking the post 1960s marijuana, that native natural cannabis plant won't do anything for you but make you mad. Because in nature, the cannabis plant has a very low THC content. THC is the chemical that gets you high, and you smoke to get high. You don't smoke to get healthy. You smoke to get high. And it's the THC chemical that gets you high, but you need a joint with a marijuana with a THC content of 10% or above in order for you to get high. The natural cannabis plant has a THC content that is less than 1%. And in conjunction with that, the natural cannabis plant has its THC balanced and tamed by another chemical, CBD, cannabidiol. Cannabidiol is a cannabinoid, THC and CBD. These are two chemicals. The natural cannabis plant has over 500 chemicals in it, over 60 of which are a particular class of chemical called cannabinoids. Two of the most important of these 60 cannabinoids are CBD or cannabidiol and THC or delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. THC is what gets you high. That's why you smoke. CBD is not psychoactive. You can't get high off CBD. And in fact, CBD tames the psychoactivity of THC. The natural cannabis plant has the right ratio between these two chemicals to make the natural cannabis plant actually medicinal. THC is the bad chemical. It's neurodegenerative in large amounts, meaning it damages the brain in large amounts. Cannabidiol is neuroprotective. It protects the brain. And so in a cannabis plant, where there is in a natural cannabis plant, with the natural ratio of THC to CBD in it, that plant is what God planted, and it did and does have medicinal value. But it ain't got no value for your high. Not in 2017, not the natural cannabis plant. Because less than 1% THC won't do nothing for you. The weed you smoke didn't come from God. The weed you smoke today came from Satan. Did y'all get that? The weed you smoke ain't the cannabis that God gave the earth. The weed you smoke is the marijuana that Satan flooded the streets with. The weed that you smoke is not the natural weed. The weed you smoke with the enhanced amount of THC. THC on the streets of the US and the UK today, the average joint has a THC content of 10 to 13%. That's what's getting you high. Some hashish oil, for example, has a 20 to 30% THC content. That didn't come from God. That came from the CIA. The enhanced THC marijuana was produced in CIA laboratories. This is the pot plot. We are uncovering not just the pot plot, but we're identifying the cannabis cabal. A cabal is a secret plot and or the small group of people who create or participate in such a plot. By Allah's grace, we are not only able to document the plot, but we can expose the plotters, the cabal. Now, cabal is a Jewish term, a Hebrew term from the Hebrew Kabbalah, which refers to a secret Jewish tradition, a mysticism. It is not arbitrary that I have labeled this the cannabis cabal using this Jewish term. Why? Because President Nixon knew of what he spoke when he said to his chief advisor, H.R. Haldeman, you know, it's a funny thing. Every one of those bastards that are out for legalizing marijuana is Jewish, President Nixon said. What the Christ is the matter with the Jews, Bob? He said every one of those at that time out to legalize marijuana is Jewish. And indeed, while not all of the cannabis cabal, the secret plotters. Not all of them are Jewish. Many of them are, and many of the most important and critical of those plotters are Jewish. And so this is indeed a cannabis cabal. And these are, family, the key players in the launching of the pot plot. The pot plot, the weaponizing of marijuana, was the objective of the CIA in particular, as part of its MK Ultra program. MK Ultra was the CIA's program to identify and use chemical and biological agents to control and manipulate the mind and behavior of enemy groups. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb was over the MK Ultra's program of finding these chemical weapons, the Technical Services Division. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb was the boss. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb is the son of two Hungarian Jews. His colleague over in the army, because the pot plot was a joint CIA, U.S. Army, specifically U.S. Army Chemical Corps operation. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb's colleague over at the U.S. Army was Colonel James Ketchum, head of the U.S. Army Chemical Corps of Edgewood Arsenal, while Dr. Sidney Gottlieb at the CIA was experimenting with how to weaponize cannabis. Colonel James Ketchum over at Edgewood Arsenal of the U.S. Army Chemical Corps was experimenting on how to weaponize cannabis. And he said, quote, "We were not looking for medical benefits. We were trying to subdue people." The point, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb's and the CIA's aim with marijuana, Colonel James Ketchum and the U.S. Army Chemical Corps' aim with marijuana was to subdue people. Colonel Ketchum said that the cannabis available to them in the 1950s was not sufficient as an incapacitating agent. Colonel Ketchum said the cannabis at that time was not adequate as a incapacitating agent, as a chemical weapon, because the THC content or the psychoactive content in it wasn't strong enough. Colonel Ketchum said that they had to enhance the psychoactive component. They had not discovered THC yet. It'll be another few years in 1964. We'll get to him in that. He said that in order for cannabis or marijuana to be weaponized as an adequate chemical weapon, the psychoactive content had to be enhanced, had to be increased. He was aided in his breakthrough to doing so, or their breakthrough for doing so, came in 1964 when Dr. Ralph Meshalom, the Israeli godfather of THC, is what they call him. Jewish scientist, he was the first one to identify and synthesize THC in 1964. He identified and synthesized THC for the working in Israel at Hebrew University. He was funded by the National Institute of Mental Health here in America. Now, those who have been following our discussion will recognize the National Institute of Mental Health. That is the agency determined to biomedically control inner city black males through chemical manipulation, through psychochemical tools of control, what some are calling them. It was a National Institute of Mental Health that was invested in this biomedical control of black males of the inner city. It was they who funded the work of the Israeli Dr. Raphael Meshalom when he synthesized the THC with the funding of the National Institute of Mental Health. He sent it to the National Institute of Mental Health. And you know what they did with it? They sent it to that man, Dr. Harris Isbell, with the glasses on. Dr. Harry Isbell was director of the Federal Narcotics Prison in Lexington, Kentucky. They called it the drug farm. Dr. Harris Isbell's drug farm was filled with black heroin addicts. Dr. Harris Isbell was the one who Dr. Sidney Gottlieb sent all of the chemicals that he tested for MK Ultra. He sent them to Dr. Harry Isbell at the Federal Narcotics Prison of Lexington, Kentucky. Gottlieb sent them to Isbell. Isbell tested them, 800 chemicals. He tested them on the black heroin addicts in his prison. The weapons, the chemical weapons that the CIA entertained were tested on black bodies, including this THC. When the Israeli godfather of THC first synthesized THC, it was sent to the National Institute of Mental Health. Then it was sent to Dr. Harry Isbell at the Federal Narcotics Prison of Lexington, Kentucky. And he tested this newly synthesized THC on the bodies of his black prisoners. I have the reports that they published that this cabal of conspirators, of plotters, I have the reports they wrote based on their experimenting with this newly synthesized THC, experimented on black men's bodies. I have Harris Isbell's report from Psychopharmacology right here, a comparison of LSD 25 with Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, where he compared the different responses of the black bodies to LSD and THC. I got his report, Clinical Pharmacology of Marijuana. when THC was first synthesized, the weaponization process was done on black bodies. THC was first tested as a chemical weapon on black bodies under the charge of Dr. Harris Isbell of the Federal Narcotics Prison in Lexington, Kentucky. That was in 1964. They began, their work was, now that THC is identified, they went to work to enhancing it. So while the joints that our brother Louis Armstrong loved to smoke and the jazz artists of the 40s and 50s, the pre-1964 smokers, they smoked a very mild, tame joint. But after 1964, when the CIA and the U.S. Army Chemical Corps had in their hands THC, they began enhancing it, and they produced the enhanced THC weed that is now on the streets. Pre-1964, cannabis was less than 1% in THC. Where did it go? Where are we at now? How did we get here? This is a graph, family. That shows the increase of THC content in street marijuana going from 1983 to 2010. The pre-1964 THC was less than 1%. After 1964, by 1983, it was up to 4% THC. You see the steady climb, 4% up to 6%. By 1999, it's at 6%. By 2002, 8%. By 2007, 10% THC content. By 2010, it was up to 11%. And look what it says they want. Between 1998 and 2010, there was a 121% increase in THC content. But that's not all. I mentioned that CBD tames THC. It imprisons, if you will, or it handcuffs, not imprisons. It handcuffs, CBD handcuffs the negative effects of THC. So in a natural plant, there's the right ratio of CBD to THC. But if you want to make a weapon, not only do you increase the neurodegenerative part or element of marijuana, you also eliminate or minimize the positive element in marijuana. And that is precisely what was done. And so now not only is the weed, not only did the weed over this time period increase in THC content from less than 1% to 4% to 8% to 10, 12, and 13%. But in that same period, look at this graph. CBD was grafted out. CBD was grafted out of the marijuana. They tested the marijuana on the streets, and the ratio In 1996, for example, the percent of CBD in marijuana dropped from 0.24% in 1996 to 0.08% in 2008, while THC is being enhanced, CBD is being grafted out. And so the median ratio in 1996, the gap between the levels of THC and CBD was 26.21. That represents the gap in the ratio between THC and CBD in 1996. In 2008, that gap was 187.99. They grafted the true medicinal chemical of cannabis, CBD, the chemical that does make cannabis a potential gift from God. They grafted that out. So the weed you smoking ain't got no CBD in it, ain't got no medicinal value. And they enhanced the THC. This family is the weaponizing of marijuana. The joint you smoke is minimal CBD, high THC. That's a weapon. That's not the holy herb. That's a chemical weapon produced by the CIA and U.S. Chemical Army Corps. Canada, you ain't safe importing your weed from Canada, your seeds from Canada. Canada was, if you study MK Ultra, Canada was ground zero for much of the most diabolical CIA MK Ultra experiments, human experiments that were done. The Canadian government was in cahoots with the CIA in its MK Ultra designs. You aren't free or clear by importing your cannabis seeds from Canada. The white man is the devil all over the earth. And again, if you were to be so lucky to get on a plane and fly to Siberia, and you found an untouched cannabis plant, you smoke that thing, you'll be fussing. You'll be mad because you won't get high. Because the natural cannabis plant has minimal THC and adequate CBD, but the stuff you are hooked on is that enhanced THC marijuana. So no, family, enhanced THC, depleted CBD. That's not a holy herb. That's a botanical weapon. So, what does this have to do, Brother Wesley, with the feminization of the black man? It is that potent THC, that excessive THC. God said less than 1%. Satan says 10, 11, 12, 13%. It's this enhanced THC in this weaponized weed that is feminizing the black man. How so? Because that enhanced THC is an enemy to your testosterone, black man. And as we have been documenting, testosterone is not just a libido drug. Testosterone not only is a power hormone, it's a hormone, it's a biochemical, the hormonal basis of a man's drive for power. It also is the hormonal paintbrush that masculinizes not just the body of a man, but testosterone masculinizes the brain of a man. The testosterone is necessary to masculinize the brain of the male fetus. Testosterone masculinizes the body and it masculinizes the brain. And when testosterone in a male fetus is depleted, that fetus defaults into feminization. The brain feminizes and the body feminizes. Not necessarily total transgenderism, but the depleting of testosterone from a fetus that started as male. By depleting the testosterone, that fetus by default feminizes in the brain and in the body. Now, it's important, family, as we documented, the black man has the highest testosterone level on the planet Earth. In this important 1986 study, serum testosterone levels in healthy young black and white men. The study documented that black men had a 21% higher testosterone levels than white men. That was a problem to white folks. That was in 1986. I have documents. We went from 1986, black men that were tested in California, 21% more testosterone than their white counterparts. By 1990, it dropped to 8%. By 2002, these reports, they dropped into 3%. And then, by 2007, in that report, serum estrogen, but not testosterone levels differ between black and white men. In this 2007 report, that you should avail yourselves to, it documents that the testosterone level of black men and white men leveled out. And when black men's testosterone level is 21% higher than white men, the way you level it out is you drop black men's testosterone. So not only does this report in 2007 alert us to the dropping of black male testosterone, but it makes an important point. The estrogen in the blood of these black men were the highest. So our testosterone dropped our blood is depleted of our requisite amount, our natural amount of this power hormone, testosterone, but also in our blood is this excess estrogen. How did that happen? We're going to show. And a side note, this 19 backtrack, why this is important. This 1972. I'm sorry, 1974 report. Look at this. Remember, I just said by 2007, black men's testosterone was on the level, the low level of white men, and they had all of this excessive estrogen in their blood. They knew in 1973, December 1973, Archives of General Psychiatry, Dr. Peter Dorr and colleagues, plasma testosterone and estradiol. Estradiol is one of the most potent estrogens in a woman's body. Plasma testosterone and estradiol were determined in semen. The title is Plasma Testosterone, Estradiol, and Semen Analysis in Male Homosexuals. They are testing the levels of testosterone and estrogen in the blood of homosexuals versus heterosexual men, and they're analyzing the semen. And they found, family, in 1973, they said plasma estradiol concentrations of the homosexual group were 2.24. The level of the control group was only 1.77. And they concluded this, quote, it was concluded that the elevated plasma estradiol concentrations of the homosexual group are a biological feature of this group and may be associated with the homosexual behavior. Now, in 1973, they surmised that because they studied homosexual men and found that they had excessive estrogen in their blood. In 1973, they surmised that this excess estrogen was related to their homosexual behavior. And then they set out to lower the testosterone in black men and increase the estrogen in black men. And by 2007, they successfully lowered black men's testosterone and flooded the blood of black men with estrogen. And so there is no mystery that there are 1 million self-identified black LGBTQ today. Again, Brother Wesley, what does this have to do with marijuana? I have been saying we have been documenting that THC family assaults a man's testosterone. And again, testosterone is the power hormone. It's a hormonal source of a man's drive for power. And a man inherently and naturally seeks power. If he's a man and he has no desire, has no drive for power, then he's been denuded. He's gender neutered, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, his term, gender neutral. And many of us are gender neutral. A man naturally desires power, drives for power. And the hormonal, the two biochemical sources of his drive, testosterone and serotonin, the neurotransmitter serotonin. You deplete a man's testosterone and you deplete a man's serotonin, you rob him of the drive for power and in effect unman him. God is a man. Man is God. God is a being of power and force. You rob a man of even the desire for power, you unman him. You make him unable to be God. And that's what the pot plot is about. That's what the cannabis cabal's aim was. Using this weaponized marijuana with this enhanced THC, using it to assault the testosterone of black men. Now you out there said, no, Brother Wesley is wrong. THC doesn't do that to testosterone. He's wrong. He's using bogus sources. Okay, well, we gonna see. So we about to walk through these. That's why I said this ain't gonna be pretty. This is document heavy. Because those out there are hiding behind the implications of what we're saying by trying to impugn the sources. So let's see if Brother Wesley is blowing smoke. If Brother Wesley is spinning some exotic conspiracy theory. Now bear with me. I'm going to start 1975, then we're going to walk up. But in 1975, New York Times, September 16th, male sex debility traced to marijuana. A new study of men who smoked marijuana daily under controlled conditions has shown that the drug can interfere with the production of reproductive hormones, in some cases suppressing the male sex hormone testosterone to levels that can result in impotence and infertility. The study was conducted jointly by researchers at the Reproductive Biology Research Foundation in St. Louis and the University of California at Los Angeles. Now, all of you who have been following us know that UCLA is a critical piece in this assault. The dominance hierarchy studies came out of UCLA, and the protocols to protect the current dominance hierarchy. The hierarchy that keeps white men as alphas and black men as epsilons in this society. That study and that effort was centered at UCLA. So it is not an accident that here in 1975, UCLA was part of the study that learned that in humans, cannabis, the THC, lowers testosterone. And again, when you deplete a man's testosterone, you disempower him biochemically. And point number one, disempowering a man is a form of feminizing that man. See, this is why y'all gotta get out of the homosexual prison, thinking homosexuality is the only feminization. No. Disempowering a man is a form of feminizing a man, because a man biochemically must have power. Women don't. Women have minimal testosterone levels. Serotonin, the neurochemical basis of a man's drive for power. Men have 52% more serotonin, metabolize 52% more serotonin, more of this power neurochemical than women. It's not that women don't seek power, but a woman in her natural state won't seek power over her man. Biochemically, she's not predisposed to do so. A man who's disempowered, a man who's robbed of the desire for power, is a man that has been feminized. So here in 1975, they document for the first time the effect of weed, marijuana, on the human male, because they had done work with animals. They document here the effect of marijuana lowering a human male's testosterone. Let's go on. That's 1975. I'm walking through these for you who want to impugn our sources and say that, well, that was in 1975. Well, no, it started in 1975. You need to get up to date, bruh. And we're going to help you get up to date. In the New York Times, July 25th, 1981. Study links use of marijuana to a fluctuation in sex drive. The importance of this 1981 study is that it answered a criticism that many of you are putting forth. It was answered scientifically in 1981. Many of you say that, man, I smoke weed and it got me horny. Yeah, that's what you say in your comments. You say, I'm a man, my libido is okay. I get lifted and I go in. Okay. So, and you offer this as proof that marijuana doesn't feminize you. Well, this 1981 study gave us to understand what's called the biphasic effect of marijuana. Biphasic, two phases. Marijuana is biphasic, meaning there's an acute effect and there's a chronic effect, by which we mean this. When you first hit that joint, it raises your testosterone. That's the acute effect. When you first hit that joint, it raises your testosterone. And so among other things, your libido is on 10. Serves as an aphrodisiac. That acute effect. But then it drops. And the long-term effect is it continues to drop. And the more weed you smoke, initial spike, and then it continues to drop. Spike, drop. That's a biphasic effect. So yeah, you may have hit that joint and, got excited and did whatever you do with whoever you did it with. That's what's to be expected with marijuana given its biphasic effect. But what you didn't see, because what you didn't feel, was what happened on the back end. On the back end, the testosterone was lowered. And the more you smoke, the lower your testosterone gets. The biphasic effect. So, fam brothers, please stop saying, well, no, that Dr. Wesley got to be wrong. He don't know what he's talking about because I smoke weed and I have sex with my wife. Yeah, that's part of the process. But the long-term effect is your testosterone is lowering and lowering. And the most important effect of it, it's not on your libido. That's the problem. Because the white man trivialized testosterone as a libido hormone. You think because your libido is intact that you're not being feminized. Your libido may very well be intact, but you're feminized because the marker of masculinity ain't your sex drive. The marker of masculinity is your power drive. So your sex drive is intact, but your power drive ain't. The proof is in the pudding. Your power drive has been depleted. Nineteen 1983. Clinical studies have given contradictory reports on the effects of smoking marijuana. Some of you march out studies that have been done that said marijuana didn't have that effect. And you rely on the fact that there are contradictions in the scientific literature. You rely on that as proof that what we're saying is wrong. Well, no, you just need to do a little more, be a little more thorough in your due diligence. By 1983, these contradictions had been resolved. Clinical studies have given contradictory reports on the effect of smoking marijuana on the plasma levels of testosterone in males. A reanalysis of existing data established that testosterone levels are depressed both after smoking one marijuana cigarette and after intravenous infusion of delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. By 1983, a reanalysis of the conflicting data, human data, made it clear, established that THC smoked or injected. THC lowers male testosterone. You ain't got nowhere to run, bruh. Now, it's important. How does it do it? Because we need to not understand that it does it, but how it does it. So we have to get a little more scientific. Before I do that, I just saw something. One of the reasons for the contradiction in the literature is because it's by sleight of hand. These devils are deceptive. Some of you march out these studies suggesting that a study was done and there was no effect on the testosterone recorded. It is because most of the studies get their marijuana from the single government source. Hold on. The U.S. National Institute of Drug Abuse. Did you know most of these studies of marijuana, cannabis use, the cannabis they use in the study, almost all of them get their cannabis from the U.S. National Institute of Drug Abuse. The government provides the marijuana for study. The government has the patent on THC and CBD. The U.S. government has the patent on THC and CBD. In these studies that find no effect on testosterone with their marijuana, it's because their marijuana is low content, or they find minimal effects on marijuana. It's because that the marijuana they're using from the U.S. National Institute of Drug Abuse, it has 4% THC, but the marijuana on the streets is 8, 9, 10%, more than double what they're testing. In those tests, those studies that test high potency. Let me get that for you. Okay. High potency. Let's see if we can see this one. High potency marijuana impairs executive function and inhibitory motor control. High potency marijuana is what's on the streets. High potency marijuana is what's doing what it do to us. Low potency marijuana is what's tested in these studies seeking to vindicate marijuana. The devil is a lie. So don't get tripped up because people march out a study that says no, marijuana didn't reduce the testosterone. Those studies invariably use low potency marijuana to produce their effects, and they do that deliberately and deceptively. So how does THC lower testosterone? Brother Wesley, you're gonna have to not tell me what, but tell me how. Okay, well, let's do that. How is testosterone produced? It doesn't start in the testes. It starts in the brain. See, the devil got us looking low, but he looking high. The assault on the brain, the mind, is his target. Testosterone, even though it's produced in the gonads and the testes, but the production starts in the brain, in this area, the hypothalamus, that area in the brain. It produces in the hypothalamus of our brain. Is produced or through, it sends down a GnRH, gonadotropin release hormone. You got to get this. Gonadotropin release hormone, GnRH. The hypothalamus in the brain secretes this hormone. gonadotropin releasing hormone. It releases it into the pituitary gland. Right there, you see it. Right under the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus secretes this hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone, into the pituitary gland. In the pituitary gland, the gonadotropin releasing hormones produces luteinizing hormone or LH and follicle stimulating hormones. This is important, family. We gotta know this. Know thyself. We need to know ourselves at a anatomical, biochemical level. If we want to understand how this weaponized weed is feminizing the black man, well then we gotta have science class. The hypothalamus secretes gonadotropin releasing hormones into the pituitary gland. In the pituitary gland, this hormone produces two other hormones, luteinizing hormone, LH, and follicle stimulating hormone, LSH. These two hormones travel from the pituitary gland down through the blood and into the testicles, where there they produce testosterone. Did you follow that? So from the GnRH, or the gonadotropin releasing hormone in the hypothalamus, into the pituitary gland, where luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone is produced. They are released into the blood, travel to the testes, and that's where and how testosterone is produced. You got that? Well, what does that have to do with anything? The THC specifically, is now known, is a blocker. It blocks gonadotropin releasing hormone. That's what THC does. THC blocks the secretion and the operation of gonadotropin releasing hormone. So because it blocks GnRH, then it minimizes, it can't produce the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. And if it can't produce, if there's minimal or no luteinizing hormones or follicle stimulating hormones, you can't have no testosterone. That's what produces. That is how marijuana, or the THC in particular, feminizes the black man. It depletes testosterone because it inhibits the production of testosterone. And it inhibits the production of testosterone by blocking gonadotropin releasing hormone. Because gonadotropin releasing hormone can't do what it do, testosterone can't be produced. You understand? I hope so, inshallah. That is how THC in your weaponized weed, that's how it lowers testosterone, because it inhibits the production of testosterone by blocking the action of the brain processes that start the process of testosterone production. Biology of Marijuana, 2002. Alterations in development of brain behavior and health parameters have been reported as the result of exposure to cannabinoids, those chemicals in the 60 plus chemicals in marijuana. CBD and THC are two of the cannabinoid chemicals. Alterations in development of the brain. Alterations in the development of brain behavior and health parameters have been reported as the result of exposure to cannabinoids during the fetal or prenatal and early postnatal period in humans. Close inspection of a number of studies of the adult offspring. The whole quote isn't there. Bear with your brother. Family. Says, close inspection of a number of studies on the adult offspring of Delta-9 THC treated mothers, studying children who are adults now, but when they were a fetus in their mother's womb, their mother exposed them to THC, smoked marijuana. Close inspection of a number of studies on the adult offspring of Delta-9 THC treated mothers reveals a pattern of alterations. These alterations include demasculinization of prenatally stressed males, or in males which were prenatally exposed to cannabinoids. This is 2002. So we learned here in the biology of marijuana, the studies, they did studies of the children of mothers who were exposed, who exposed their fetus to THC through smoking marijuana or injection. They followed them, and in adulthood, they tested them and studied them and found demasculinization. Demasculinization in many of these men. When you lower the testosterone of the male fetus, it defaults to feminization. I was on the Carl Nelson show, Brother Carl Nelson show some time ago. And a brother called in and said, to argue the point, said, nah, bro, you wrong. My wife smoked weed every day of her pregnancy. And with our little girl, and our little girl is just that sharp. I'm glad that was a talk show. If we were in person, I would have roundhouse karate kicked him in his face. Exposing, not only exposing your child to that assault, but having the gall to put your child out on public Front Street like that. You should be ashamed of yourself. You and that child's mother. They also say one of the well-established effects of THC is suppression of release of pituitary hormones including luteinizing hormone. THC also has an inhibiting effect on serum testosterone levels, and it has been shown to reduce testicular weight. You know what that means? Reduce testicular weight. It drops your testosterone, and it reduces testicular weight. It shrinks your testicles, buddy. It shrinks your testicles. That's what chronic use of THC does. That is a fact. You can whine about it all you want. I belabored the point. Given all of these various sources over time to demonstrate to us that what we are saying is absolutely fact. It's not a fact based on one outdated and contradicted report. The conglomerate, the aggregate of the up-to-date contemporary science establishes absolutely that marijuana with this enhanced THC assaults the testosterone of men. It lowers it, and by lowering the testosterone of men, that ipso facto feminizes us. It don't necessarily make you gay, but it absolutely feminizes us. And some of the ways, some of the effects. Now, I won't keep us all night, but this is how does it feminize us? What are some of the real life illustrations of this feminizing of the black man through this weaponized weed? This is important, family. Important document. Biological Psychiatry, 2005. Testosterone reduces unconscious fear but not consciously experienced anxiety. Dr. Jack Van Hoek and colleagues. Listen to what is reported. The destructive value of excess fear has been emphasized in both animal and human models of psychopathology. Overgeneralized, exaggerated behavioral and autonomic responses to threat and novelty are observed when pathological fear sets in. This happens when fear circuits of the brain have been hyper-excitable. When fear circuits in the brain are hyper-excitable, pathological fear sets in. Heightened levels of the steroid hormone cortisol exaggerate and sustain fearlessness. Said, on the contrary, one of the most replicated findings in science and research on the relationship between steroid hormones and emotional behavior involves reductions in fear after treatment with the steroid hormone testosterone. The phenomenon has been demonstrated in a large variety of species using an excessive range of behavioral assessment paradigms. In other words, testosterone blunts fear. High testosterone protects against pathological fear. So if high testosterone protects against pathological fear and it reduces fear as what they call a startle response. What is a startle response? It's the instinctive response that humans give when startled, when blindsided by something and is startled. The response, the startle response, or the response is called startle response. For many, the response is fear. Testosterone reduces fear as the startle response. So not only does high testosterone reduce fear as the startle response, it also protects against pathological fear. So if high testosterone does that, what is the effect of depleted testosterone? Men with depleted testosterone are scary dudes. And this is why I said that I made the point where no, weed smokers can't be in the 10,000 fearless. Not that you can't sign up, but you got to stop smoking that weed. Because that weed is assaulting your testosterone by the processes that we detailed. And by lowering your testosterone, it's increasing your fearfulness, which is the opposite of the 10,000 fearless. So we have to stop. Got to put down the joint in order to be among the 10,000 fearless. You can sign up, but part of the training will be training you out of your addiction to the white man's weaponized marijuana. So when a black man who is God, a being of power and force, has his testosterone depleted and he's made fearful, he's so fearful, anybody can do anything to his woman and child, and he won't do nothing but get in a prayer circle. He won't do nothing but get in a prayer circle. And they can show these videos. They can assault us with the visual of their assault on us over and over and over again with no fear that there will ever be an uprising, because we scared. And why are we scared? Because startle response, fear is our primary startle response. And we suffer from a pathological fear. Look, any group of men who are allowed to happen to their women and children what we black men allow to happen to our women and children. 64,000 missing and we don't care nothing. That is the signature that we as black men suffer from a pathological fear. And we are submitting to us that pathological fear has been chemically induced in us, and part of the chemical production of that pathological fear is in the weed that we smoke religiously now. This weaponized weed that's assaulting our testosterone. And when black men are gripped with, when black men are scary, that's feminization. I don't care how hypersexual you are. I don't care what your libido is. You scared to go to war with the man? You scared to stand up to the man who's slaughtering of women and children? You feminized, bro. And that weed is helping to feminize you. I'm almost finished, family. Feminizing the black man. This THC double castrates black men. It castrates us at our testes, but most importantly, it castrates us in our mind. THC, this weaponized weed, its greatest assault is on our mind. Remember, as we documented, its assault on our testosterone isn't through our testes, it's through our brain. It inhibits the brain processes of testosterone production. The THC, an evidence-based review, an important document, an important study, an evidence-based review of acute and long-term effects of cannabis use on executive cognitive functions. Executive cognitive function. Not that low level thinking. Yeah, you are right. You can go to work high and get through your day, your non-sophisticated job, quite easily. Cannabis does not impair common cognitive processes. That's why you think you're good. What does, excuse me, cannabis, this THC, it impairs executive cognitive functions. Reread, cannabis use has been shown to impair cognitive functions on a number of levels, from basic motor coordination to more complex executive function tasks, such as the ability to plan, organize, solve problems, make decisions, remember, and control emotions and behaviors. That's why I said this weed is making brothers so emotional, scary and emotional. Brothers are emotional as hell on that weed because that THC, one of the effect, it inhibits executive cognitive function, which includes emotion control. Let's go on. These deficits differ in severity depending on the quantity, regency, age of onset, and duration of marijuana use. What THC does, the THC assaults, diminishes the white matter of the prefrontal cortex. Look at the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is where executive functions are carried out. It's the seat of impulse control, and it's the seat of emotional response. And this is the precise area also where THC has some of its most devastating effects. And look, executive cognitive function. See, brother, you and I are the God in our home. We the head of our home, not based on our penis, but based on our ability to carry out executive functions. But a male in the home that does not have the cognitive ability to plan and strategize for his home, does not have the cognitive, the executive cognitive ability to think abstractly, to problem solve and troubleshoot in the home. Why would your wife look to you and me as head of the home? But we cannot do the executive cognitive functions that are required of the executive in the home. So we have to turn to her to problem shoot the situation, because our cognitive function, our executive cognition has been impaired by this weed that we are smoking. And that's why the black man is feminized by weed, because if we are in the home and our woman is making the executive decisions, She's the abstract thinker solving a problem. Then she the god of the home. We feminized. That's a feminized black man. I don't care that he don't sleep with men. This ain't about homosexuality necessarily. But that black man in the home that has to surrender executive cognitive processes to his wife because he's unable to engage in them, that black man is feminized. So, it's late. I have much more. But I think this is a good place to stop. We have, I believe, documented sufficiently that in fact, as I stated, and contrary to the gainsayers, mop makers, and doubters out there, despite the wishful thinking of the weed heads, the marijuana available to you and I and us in the U.S. and Mexico and Colombia, it has been weaponized against us. It is not the plant. You ain't smoking the plant that God put on this planet. You're smoking the plant that the CIA and the U.S. Army Chemical Corps unleashed on the streets and made available to you. We have documented the effect of this botanical weapon that has been made available to us. It is a fact that this enhanced THC marijuana double castrates the black man, castrates us in the testicles, if you will, the testes, by reducing the testosterone that's produced there and comes up out of there, therefore robbing us of our natural God-given drive for power and in effect feminizing us. Yeah. A disempowered man is a feminized man. A man, or let me say, a man who's robbed of a man who's happy, disempowered, that's a feminized man. A man who has no drive for power and force, that's a feminized man. We have documented that this THC not only inhibits the production of testosterone, and we documented, we showed you how it is done. It also assaults, castrates the brain of the black man because it robs us of the ability to engage in that executive cognitive thought process, the thinking of the gods, not the thinking of the Negro. Now you can think, you can get through your day at work. That's low level thinking. That's not the thinking that your wife necessarily should be compelled to bow to. Because that thinking ain't going to get you out of problems that come into your life. The black God thinking is in the executive cognitive functioning. And that's what this weaponized weed robs us of. And when we are in the home unable to engage in executive cognitive thought processes, when we have to surrender that to our wife or our girlfriend or whoever, then we have in effect been feminized because we surrender the leadership and executive position to her. So yes, it is a fact that this weaponized weed feminizes the black man. Does it make the black man gay? Well, with other factors, it may make some gay, but that wasn't my point or my claim. What is my claim and what is a fact we have documented. This weed you smoke ain't God's herb. It's Satan's weapon, and it feminizes the black man by devil castrating us in our testicles and castrating us in our brains, making us gender neuter to feminize the lady of the races, as the so-called Negro was called by Ronald Parker. This sociologist Ronald Parker. This weaponized weed has effectively made the black man, the so-called Negro in America, the lady of the races. Thank you for listening, family. Thank you for indulging your brother. I pray that we have successfully communicated our message in a clear way that all can understand. May Allah continue to bless you all, and may Allah continue to bless the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan, and may he continue to bless us through the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. Assalamu alaikum, family.